Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this in-depth ag forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Our first map today kind of illustrates one thing that I've been watching a lot for the last 30 to 45 days, and it is what the northern hemisphere temperature pattern has looked like. So this is the last 30 days of temperature anomalies. And I want you to notice something here. When we look across much of Europe, then getting into much of Asia here, we've had a pretty strong north-south divide. And a lot of this, of course, lines up with our mountain systems that are across parts of Europe and Asia. And then in North America, it's also lined up with our mountains here, the big chain that runs, you know, the Rocky Mountains, where we've stored up all that cooler air on the western side of it and not had really a hint of it at all on the eastern side. And just think about North America here. Normally, we have to watch for big reserves of colder air getting built up here just to the west of the Hudson Bay that can be tapped into to drive deeper troughs that keep sustained colder air over in the eastern half of North America. But we just have not seen that. And instead, we've continued to develop deeper troughs in this section of the northern hemisphere. I'll show you that in a few moments. But there's another part to this as well, and what often helps that out is northern hemisphere snow cover and snow cover extent. So I want to look at that too, because the big question I keep asking myself is, when does this change? When does this break down? And many of you know that back in September, I thought that by now we would see more of a pattern change than what we have seen. So what have we been in? What do we need to change from? That's shown here. And I know this map goes from September 15th to October 15th, but the reality of it is we've looked something like this going back to August 15th. So this is about 60 days of being in this pattern where there's been a big ridge here, a deeper trough somewhere in the Gulf of Alaska, and then a really permanent ridge that's been here between Greenland and the Hudson Bay. And we've talked about it a lot, but it's made our flow pattern do something quite a bit, like that. The jet stream has been forced to take that track more than anything else. And of course, last week, as those particular features ejected into the plains, we had, a series, 3 separate deep cyclones that moved through there. Okay, in the near term, the pattern's going into reset mode. It's going to do this again. And I want to show you that. But first, I want to continue this discussion because, as I said, snow cover could be critical. Now, this map's kind of small here. Let me just try to blow it up. This is neat. This is through October 17th. It's from the Rutgers Snow Lab. Great resource. But what it shows us here, and you can see the color coding at the bottom, is where we have more snow than average versus less snow than average. And what's important to note here is that we don't have an extensive part of the northern hemisphere with major positive snow anomalies, excess snow, right? And even places like here where we just brought in that snow last week, well, a lot of that snow has already started to melt off. So for example, as we look here at some satellite imagery late in the day today, so here's this morning through midday today and then into this evening. In a minute, we're going to talk about this deeper cyclone here, but I want to show you something. In fact, let's just zoom in and take a closer look right there. This is an area in Montana and Wyoming where you can still see a little bit of the snow cover. You can see the clouds moving, but the snow does not. You still have some snow on the ground, but a lot of that melted, and that was great. That snow, as it melted, went into the, into the moisture profile. We've improved on our long-standing drought problems there, and that's good. We need to keep seeing this. But just coming back out here, in fact, let's look at a continental view. There we go. We've seen this a few moments ago. We've got a system over here that we got to be keeping a very close eye on. But this system isn't going to be the one that breaks this pattern down. And ultimately, that's my bigger question in this whole video. Okay, so this pattern's getting reinforced by something. La Nina, it continues. Southern Oscillation Index is to 12. That means those trade winds are strong. This is a healthy La Nina. And as I've told you, compared to last year, we did not have this cool tongue here. And look at the deep cold that we've got in this area. We would technically call this a negative PDO pattern, Pacific Decadal Oscillation pattern, because of all the warm water that's still in place here with the cold kind of reverse C shape there. This reinforces the development of a La Nina, which means I think we're going to continue to see this La Nina go. It's going to be there through this fall, winter, and probably peak maybe in January. But when you keep colder water in place here, it sensibly cools, that water right here sensibly cools the lower atmosphere and keeps this deeper trough there. And then don't forget, look at what we've seen downstream of that. From mid-September until yesterday, look at how warm this section of North America, the United States, has been. Everything that's got a 2 in it, that's where it's the second warmest such time period on record. So from mid-September to mid-October, that 30-day window has been very warm. So this is it. That's what we're going to watch to see if we can break this down. Now, what's an interesting consequence of this is where we can look to see where there's been a frost. So since September 1, I've been keeping track of this with the RTMA data. That's what this is, the real-time mesoanalysis data. Everywhere that you see gray, that data has shown me that there's been a frost in that area. And what's interesting about this is that right now, I mean, I just know this off the top of my head because I live here, but today would be the average and the median first climatological data of frost. Yet we're going to spend some time here, several more days before we get a frost into this area. And it's also interesting to see that much of the Northeast, which has normally had its first frost so far, doesn't have it. For example, I'll just take you to the hometown of one of my good friends, Dr. Dave Cole, and we were looking there just having a discussion about the temperatures. Now, he lives in Virginia now, but we spent a lot of time in Syracuse. And if you look at Syracuse, New York, you can see the temperature's been very warm, lately compared to average. Average is right there where I just drew that black line. And it's been very warm compared to that. The overnight lows, look at this. We had an overnight low 2 days ago that matched the normal climatological high. And in this area, we have had a major and fast accumulation of GDUs. They're currently, right now, since the beginning of the year, sitting at almost 3,400 GDUs. That way outpaces the last few years. But what I want to show you is down here at the bottom. Each of these vertical lines is a different historical frost over the last 40 years. And here we are sitting past the median first date. We've had days where frosts have been later, years that they've been later, but not very many. So we're going to see how much more time the Northeast buys. Because the next 10 days looks like this. This is from the 12Z European run, just came out a little while ago. And what it shows us that over the next 10 days outside of the west coast of the United States, there will be more days that favor more mild conditions than warm across much of North America. Now, we've got colder air coming in a quick hit here, and it might try to set up more over the Northeast. I'll show you that in a few seconds. But again, we're going to pay attention to what this pattern looks like and if we're going to break this big ridge feature down that's keeping all that heat there. Because you can almost see it, right? Deeper troughs are coming in here and big ridges are building there. And that's what I want to look for. Because right now, the atmosphere says load up the Gulf of Alaska with troughs. It's just putting them through here, and they're going to be cutting into the west coast, driving in a lot of moisture, which we talked about last week, and dramatically increasing the precipitation chances. And this ridge you see right here is just helping things out. It's helping to push all that in this direction. So the action, much of the action over the next 10 days, which is seen here in this map, which is the next 10 days of precipitation anomalies, is really just focused on that onshore flow in the west. We've maxed out my color bar. That's a 4-inch surplus compared to average. And much of Northern California, from the Sacramento Valley to this part of Oregon, getting in, just north of the Snake River Valley, big time precip, and that includes a lot of snow for the mountains. Now we are watching a low that's going to come right in through here, and then there'll be a deeper trough that tries to set up here, and it will put a little stationary boundary in place here that when we get into talking about this, we could see some more storms in the Ohio River Valley, all the way back to like the Ozarks. And again, that was an area, the Ohio River Valley, that saw some severe storms last week. But I'll take that mouse off the map and you can just take a look. Next 10 days, this is what precipitation looks like compared to average. Wetter than average showing in these blue-green colors. All right, here's where we get into some of the details of this. Here is the jet stream level flow looking at troughs and ridges. And as I go through Tuesday, we're going to watch in the day on Tuesday for a weak low to kind of come out of Wyoming. And that one's going to move from Wyoming across South Dakota, Nebraska, head toward Iowa, Minnesota, and end up in Wisconsin and Illinois right here by Thursday. And it's going to be a rainmaker. Not much, but precip's coming through there. But still, big features. See the ridge? And there's the deeper troughs connected to Alaska, the Gulf of Alaska, the Bering Sea, this area. And what we're going to notice is that going from Thursday into Friday into Saturday and Sunday, that trough deepens. So at the same time that this feature is just driving flow into California at the end of this week, into Oregon as well, we have a trough that's sitting here, not quite connected to cold air, because to the north of it, there's plenty of warmer than average air. But this one could bring in some frost conditions into the Northeast. That's why I brought that up a few moments ago. But take a look at this. That trough in the west is substantial and very deep. And into early next week, it will be bringing in probably the fourth or fifth, but hardest punch into the west coast. I'll show you that in a few moments. And look what builds into the center of the United States. That's just the downstream ridge. It's a reflection of the deeper trough here. In other words, kind of think of it as what's going to go down in the atmosphere has got to come up somewhere else. And that's what we're getting over here, warmth. Now, as I play this out all the way out to day 10, there are a couple of things I'm starting to notice. Now, this is a single operational run, and I'll show you the ensembles in just a few moments. But there are some hints that maybe by the very end of October, the pattern will shift. And I'll tell you, that's about 10 days later than I thought it was going to shift. 10 whole days. So I'll keep watching and keep you posted, but let's get into this in detail. We've got right now winter weather advisories, winter storm watches, winter storm warnings here in Wyoming. And we got some windier conditions that are sitting around this. And that's because we've been watching this low come over California today into Nevada. And late this afternoon, it's kind of coming right over, almost over the top of Salt Lake City. So tonight, it will get into Wyoming. See it there? And by the way, that's the only thing I'm talking about because that's all there is. There's big high pressure over the southeast and not a whole lot else going on here in terms of precip. Well, we could see some pretty heavy snows again in the mountains here in Wyoming. And this is noon on Tuesday. That low starts to make its way here into the high plains of South Dakota, Nebraska. And we could get some snow here in this part, kind of near Rapid City, on Tuesday night. So that's late Tuesday night. Well, that low then moves across Nebraska, spreading snow in, South Dakota, moves into Minnesota, possibly bringing in some wetter weather to northern Iowa. And then what you see here is that getting into Wednesday evening, we've now got a pretty well-developed low with a front to the south, big shield of precipitation to the north. This is all looking to be rain at this point, but we could get some of that rain coming through Illinois as well. But the real show is what's taken shape on the back side of this. And to look at that, I thought we would do our multi-model kind of pass here. So let me take it back. I was just looking at this before I recorded here. We've gotten through Tuesday and into Wednesday. Let's just stop right here. 1 o'clock Wednesday afternoon. GFS is on the left, Europeans on the right. Boy, these look the same, don't they? We have the high pressure cell here, pulling some flow around, so we could get some wetter weather here in the European. It's there in the GFS. The low is on the Minnesota Iowa border in both models. The front will be in place as we expect, and as you can see here, going from Wednesday afternoon into Wednesday evening, get out to Thursday morning, afternoon and evening, that low passes through. So that's the first round. But look at this deep low. It's in both models, same position, very good agreement on this for next Thursday night. As we watch that low bring its front onshore into Oregon, California, Washington, that area, it's going to pack a pretty good punch. So that's Thursday night into Friday midday. Now that makes its way across into Idaho and Montana, but that's about it. See, it's in both models there. Now, while this deeper trough is developing here, we are also seeing another trough develop here. It's kind of disconnected from really cold air, but it is there. So watch what ends up happening. Both the models, the GFS and the European, are putting a boundary in here. And the reason why they're doing that is we got flow coming into this boundary. It's stationary, kind of like this. So on one side, coming in from the north, the other side coming in from the south. And then right along here, we have a lot of convergence. There's even an upper level little shortwave that sneaks over the top of it too. Little bit different orientation, European versus GFS, but that's wetter weather in this area. So this would be Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, and evening. So you can see the models have a little different flavor on it, but it's there. And so is what's going on the West Coast. And out here by Sunday evening, getting into the overnight hours on Sunday night into Monday morning, one big difference is the GFS really dips the trough south. The European keeps it farther to the north. But still, they both have this system here moving around this high pressure cell. Remember, that's what we talked about, that stationary boundary. So this could produce some wet weather and some storms from the mid-south all the way through the mid-Atlantic. We're going to watch that carefully. So that's out to next Monday, getting out to next Tuesday and Wednesday. Look at what's happening. I mean, just big troughs of low pressure coming into the west. And at this point, we get some model spread, and that's expected. What I'm telling you is that last week of October, which starts next week, right? That's going to be the one where I think we could start to see a lot more activity in the Central Plains. And I'm going to get to that in just a few seconds. But let's compare them. European model first. As I play this out, there's the low we talked about from Wyoming to Wisconsin. The high pressure cells here, so bring some scattered moisture, precipitation, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. The West has the first through Thursday of its fronts coming through. Going into Friday, adding into Saturday, getting through the day on Sunday into Monday. Why don't we just stop this out here? How about right there? That would be 7 a.m. Monday morning. That's European model total precip. System 1, flow around the high, stalled out boundary. Constant flow coming into the west. What's the GFS say? This is what the GFS has. That's pretty good agreement overall, right? Same features, we saw that. But there are differences, and take a look at this. Remember, when you look at these maps, these colors mean the European is wetter. This is the GFS. Look how much wetter the European is with this system here versus the GFS wetter farther to the north. Then look at California. The European targeting Northern California, the GFS targeting Central California. That's going to be important to watch because the European overall favors much wetter conditions for much of the Northwest, but that's because the GFS has taken this so much farther to the south. So this is it. There's a lot of discrepancy, even though I said the models are consistent with at least developing the same features. Now, what about week 2 when we get out there? Well, both models are attempting to do this. From this Sunday, going out into Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. Well, day 10 is where? That's next Thursday, right? One of the things they've done, redevelop the trough, but we've started to bring in some more troughing in through here. But that ridge is still in place. See it? Does that ever go away? Well, going on to day 11, 12, in fact, let's just stop this, might as well, on Halloween, Sunday. Still see that same feature. Nothing's kicked that out. Still have a trough here, but we're trying to send more of these systems into the Midwestern part of the United States. And the GFS does the same thing. And that is why, as I mentioned a few moments ago, the week 2 pattern, well, you do see how there's a larger area here shown up green, wetter than normal, whereas we expect this given the flow coming in. This means an active last week of the month of October. That's really what that's shaping up to be. Okay, that's precip. Let's talk temperatures now. You noticed here, oh no, wait, I wanted to prove to you that the GFS says the same thing. Day 10 in the GFS, week 2 in the GFS. So there you go. Active midsection of the country to finish the month. Now let's talk temperatures. I want to do this a couple of different ways here. I was watching for any reason to get a frost into the Northeast. That was one of the things I was keen on, plus the Midwest. And I was looking out there for possibly an event on Sunday in the Northeast, okay? And that includes Pennsylvania and the Appalachian Mountains. But let me take you back to how I got there. So these are minimum temperatures. Let's blow this up even again. Minimum temperatures today. We saw these this morning. As we go into Tuesday and then into Wednesday, that's the buildup ahead of the first system. Remember the one coming out of Wyoming? So on the back side of that, yeah, there's plenty of cool air. Thursday morning, we'll freeze, actually, the Dakotas down here into this part of Nebraska and into Kansas. You see that? And that's going to move on Friday farther to the east. So we're going to hit Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and the eastern side of Nebraska. That's overnight lows. Then on Saturday, this is where we start to get those temperatures in Illinois, for example, down there below 40. So we're going to have some frost risk here as well. Don't be surprised if the National Weather Service puts that out. Same thing for this part of the upper Mississippi River Valley. But then we see that colder air wrapping up into that deeper trough I showed you. And now I'm getting concerned about it over here in the Northeast, a place where we've not seen much frost. And this is out there on Sunday the 24th. What about that next Monday? Because the National Digital Forecast Database only goes out 7 days. So I pulled it up from 3 different modeling sources. Monday morning's low temperatures. Now all I want you to do is know that I put a black contour when you hit 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 Celsius. Now you start to see that the models here are trying to bring that in. So interestingly enough, maybe in toward like London here, London, Ontario, Pennsylvania, New York, we're getting that frosty air in place. That's the GFS. It's most aggressive. This is the European. Notice how we don't have that. It's in the 40s. Excuse me, it's in the 30s, but it's not down there to 32. They've got the cooler a little bit farther back. And then the blend of models, the national blend, has some interior pockets of frost, but nothing like what the GFS is. So the GFS is most aggressive on those cold temperatures. Okay, let's just take this and then expand it out here. This is day 5 through 10. Now we know what's going on. Day 5 through 10 is a bit of a reset in the pattern, and that's when that big sharp ridge builds here with another downstream trough. So southern plains, mid-south, we could see temperatures. I mean, you can match up the colors, 12, 15 degrees above average for that time period. And how long does it last? Well, out there, day 10 through 15. You just look at this, and I'm going to go back to one of the very first graphics I showed you, this, and it almost looks identical, doesn't it? There it is from the last 30 days. Here's the next day 10 through 15. We just aren't breaking that down fast enough. And the models want to keep it there. Despite bringing the MJO over here toward Africa, you can see the forecast going into this area, it's not a strong enough signal to really kick this whole pattern out. It's going to keep being reinforced by what's going on with our La Nina. I'd like to show you that again real quick. Here it is. And the colder water that's in place here and here. That La Nina is way more powerful than we originally thought at the end of summer. So you wouldn't be surprised if I showed you that the forecast from the 28th of October to the 28th of November looks like this for temperatures. Now this is a forecast, 28th of October to 20th of November. We will be able to bring more troughs of lower pressure through here, but without a large storehouse of cold air in place here or here, where are we going to source the really, really cold conditions to develop a deeper trough that will stay in place here? That's my main story. I don't think we can do it. So if we zoom in and take a closer look here, let's just zoom into the United States. Now let's put on there the precipitation pattern. What we typically get out of this is still more wetter weather in the west. All right. We will have these systems coming out in the plains, maybe wetter than normal across the Great Lakes. But that's overall our pattern. October 28th to November 28th. So while we sit here in the middle of the month waiting on some new long-range information, we'll stay, about 30 days out and keep a close eye on things. I'll watch it for any changes, because if that ridge between the Hudson Bay and Greenland breaks down and shifts things around, everything I just shared with you will be out the window. And we know the atmosphere is capable of doing that. But there just aren't any good, strong lead indicators that it's going to do it anytime soon. So I'll stop there. Hope you all have a good rest of your week, and I'll talk to you on Thursday. Thank you.